Hello everyone, I'm Caroline and today we're going to jazz up some plant pots. Have you ever bought a plant from a supermarket or a garden centre and they come in these really plain pots? At least there's some variety now. You can get colours, which helps. They all used to be terracotta colour. They used to have black ones. Now I've had some in purple pots and some in grey ones. But you don't have to keep them like this. Obviously, if you take your label off, it makes a big difference. But they don't always come off. So let's see if this one... No, you can see that's going to leave lots of sticky residue and tear as it comes off. So I thought it would be a good idea to see how we can jazz these flower pots up very quickly, very easily. So don't be put off if you think, oh, I could never do anything fancy to my flower pot. I know you could. These things are so easy, anyone can do them. Right, let's get started. My first black pot, I painted this colour. It's actually an emulsion paint from Wilko. I thought I'd try different paints to see which were going to be the best for the minimum amount of coats, because whenever you paint a coat of paint, it slows you down in your craft. And I'm very pleased with the way this came out. But now, it's a bit plain, isn't it? It's a nice colour, but not a lot to it. But I have got one of these. And I've got a tube of this. This is PBO Studio Acrylics in Opaque. And this is a dotter tool. Just realised I haven't got my light on. There, that's better. We can see what we're doing now. So once you've painted your pot, or if you've got a pot like this, you don't need to paint it. Get some acrylic paint. It was getting hard, dry bit on the end of my tube. A nice good wudge of white acrylic onto your very expensive palette. Dip your dotting tool in. And then make a nice chunky dot. And already, I love the look on this. The contrast of the deep purple colour and the white. Dual colours and white always go together so nicely. And then you can either do them random or in some sort of order. I'm trying to do some sort of order, but it'll end up semi-random, semi-ordered. I really enjoy doing this dotting. It's such fun. I like making mandalas too with these, but when you take a simple household object and cover it in dots, it just makes me smile. Have you got a favourite pattern? Are you into florals? Are you into stripes? Are you into randoms? Dots are my favourite pattern, followed very closely by stripes. After the initial painting, that took minutes, a minute at the most. And look at that, it's absolutely gorgeous. I think that is so happy, such fun. Who isn't going to like something like that? I think it's really nice and it does make me happy. Now normally I would spray this over with some varnish or some sealer, because if you're going to put this in the garden or if it's going to get a lot of splashes of water, then you might start to wear through the paint. So best to do that. I'm not going to, because I want to move on to the next flower pot. This pot came in this colour, so it takes all the painting out so much faster to do. I do try to avoid painting wherever possible when you're looking at quick and easy ideas. I've got this braid of flowers. I'm going to take the flowers off the braid. I could really have taken my finger protectors off to do this, couldn't I? Depending on what look you want, you can snip off some of the back bit that sticks out that attaches it to the braid thingy, garland, that's the word. Snip that off, because if you don't, they'll stick out a bit far for this particular project, but you may decide on your project you want them sticking out. Pop that into place. Now I think that looks lovely as it is, but I want more flowers. I want this to look really flamboyant. And again, this one's so fast that it doesn't matter that you're going to be spending time putting flowers all the way around, because if you weren't, you'd blink and you'd have finished. But if you've only got a couple, you can just do some on the one side, on the front of the pot. If you've only got a few more, you could do a little cluster either side so that you can turn the pot around. Because a lot of plants like to grow towards the light, and if you don't turn them regularly, they'll start to lean over and they can get a bit leggy. You do have the option to put a bow around here, put a ribbon around the top and then a bow on, but I think that, for me, that is just beautiful of itself. I think it's absolutely gorgeous just having flowers on. So you could either coordinate the colours of the plant with your living room or your decor, or you can coordinate it with the plant in the plant pot, or you could just go completely random and do whatever you fancy. Why not? Right, on to the next one. This pot I painted with, I'll show you what they are. They're Wilko emulsion paint and they're tester pots. Brilliant. Before long, I'll be showing you the one I painted with acrylic paint, which really didn't work very well. This is 2 coats. If I show you, it could possibly do with a 3rd coat, but I'm not going to. I'm happy with it as it is, so 2 coats will do fine. I've got these lovely little crochet motifs, and I thought they would go perfectly on there. Look at that. So again, out with the hot glue. You can use other sorts of glue. Aileen's tacky glue I think would do very well gluing these on. But because I'm videoing, I always like to go for speed. I suppose I should have chopped those knobbly bits off, shouldn't I? Chop them off now. So I'll trim this one as well. These have been cut off a tablecloth or something like that, or a doily. Because when they get broken, rather than throw them away, you can cut the centres out on any little motifs like this. I've got 3 of these, so I'm going to put them in 3 places, and I'm going to judiciously hide that place where it bumped into a purple plant pot. There's a blob of purple paint. Now it's up to you. You can glue these right to the edge, but I think they look quite nice with the edges a little bit loose. Maybe it's just me. I think they look a little bit more cottagey. Cottagecore is very popular at the moment, which is, for me, from how I understand it, is basically going back to all the things you remember from your childhood or from your granny's house. How on earth did I get covered in white paint? So, as I was saying, it's very much like any decor you remember as a child, anything with a little bit of nostalgia. And because of that, granny square blankets are coming in, bright jewelled colours, all that sort of thing. Oh, I've got some paint on there now. Never mind, you won't tell anybody, will you? No, I know you won't, thank you. So there we got a lovely flower pot with all these little doilies on it. I think they're lovely. I think it's very basic, very simple. If you've got a paper doily, you could glue that on. You don't need to use these fabric ones. I had them there and I wanted to put them onto something that would look really special. I finally found out what it is. Right, let's get on to the next one. For this plant pot, I want this to look quite cottagey too. So I've got my brown pot or my terracotta pot. I've got this lovely spotty fabric. Look at that. That is such fun. So I get my pinking shears. Because these have got zigzags on, as you can see there, the fabric is less likely to fray. But the other option is to cut it and actually fray it, and that'll look quite nice too. This reminds me of homemade jam with those circles of fabric they cut out to put on the top of the jars. That's why I really like using my pinking shears for anything cottagey or anything country. When you cut the one edge, nice and juggedy, or you fray the edge, I've got this lovely lace here, and I'm going to put that on top of this, either side like that. So I want to decide how wide I want this to be, and I don't want it too wide, but I want to be able to clearly see it either side. So I'll cut along that row of dots, I think. And this pot, there's some of that stickiness that I said you get on labels. It doesn't matter because I'm just going to glue over the top of it. Because of the angle of the pot, it's less easy to get this to lie flat, so you end up with it a little bit wonky. And there are ways of doing it where you cut, instead of a strip, you cut a curve. Oh, that's very technical and is not going to suit our quick and easy theme, so I'm not doing it that way. Make sure it's where I want it at the front, and then I'm going to squirt a blob of glue up inside that loose floppy bit. I'm covered in white paint again. Where am I getting this white paint from? I have no idea. And now I'm going to add lace on the top. You won't have the problem with the angle on your pot, distorting everything. If you go for really thin, if you put something, I think you'll get away with an inch. I fancied using something deeper. I'm going to tolerate it being a bit wonky. And I got this little offcut here, so I'm going to tie a 2-loop bow with it. 2-loop bow is always the best bow to use if you've got one-sided fabric. If it's both sides, the pattern is on, you'll be fine. Like some ribbons are dual-sided, but if you've got something with one side, these are the neatest bows for at least getting your loopy bits with some pattern on. You can fiddle around and turn things over. It is very fiddly, but it can be done. Like that. You glue that in place. Pop that there, and then I got some buttons. I didn't know which one to put on. So I can put that one on. You don't really see that. No, that's the wrong colour blue. Oh yes, that's the one. So I'm going to chop the shank off the back. Be careful when you do that, you'll have your eye out. Make sure you've got your glasses on. And pop it on the front. So this pot is not one that you can turn, unless you stick a bow on the back as well, but my back is a little bit messy. But what you can do, if you plant it in a smaller pot, you can pop it in there and then turn it around, and then it never bothers the top pot. Aha, I've just thought. If you've got one that's virtually the same, you could pop that in and then you could turn that around. Probably would need to be at least the same colour though. So that's another pot done already. I told you these were quick. Let's move on. For this project, I'm going to use this coloured pot. Now, it's got a bit of a cracky thing going on there. It doesn't look very well, does it? But that's not a problem, because I'm going to take this bow and glue it over the damaged bit. Obviously, it's better if you haven't got a damaged pot, but if you have, you can usually hide something with a bow or with a button. We crafters are clever at coming up with ideas on how to fix things. I've got these self-adhesive pearlized gems, they're called, whoops. And so I thought I'd just pop some of those all over this purple pot. Just in a random manner. How quick is this? And you can use any colour you want, if you can get different sizes or shapes, whatever you fancy. And just pop these everywhere. This is one you can do with children, as long as they're old enough not to put these in their mouth, because they're not a very good size for little children. If you've got someone who thinks, oh, I could never craft, and you're trying to convince them, no, give it a go. You could get them doing this sort of thing. And they are going to love it when they see what they've made with very little effort, very little time, and looks quite professional. So that's my best attempt at random. I find random very difficult. That was super fast, and if you haven't got a broken flower pot like I have, it'll be even faster. For this project, I've got some twine, and I got a few shells. And also, this pot, I like these colour pots. I think they're very nice and very adaptable if you're going to make things to save you actually painting them. So first thing I'm going to do is wind a little bit of twine around the top and the bottom of the tub. You can completely skip this if you're trying to be faster, or if you really don't like winding twine. I do understand that some people don't like winding it. It's just something I enjoy. So when you've added all your twine, then you just get your shells. Figure out where they're going to touch, and that's where you want most glue to be, because you could end up putting glue on bits that are not actually going to make contact with the pot. And then make yourself a pretty pattern. Yours is probably not going to have as much hot glue hanging around the place as mine. You know me and hot glue. We make a terrible mess. But I love it. Quick, easy, and if you want to make it even faster, just don't bother put the twine on. But I think that adds to like a seaside theme, a bit of a nautical theme. So I love that. This pot is a change of plan. Because I'm trying to do quick and easy, I didn't want to spray undercoats or anything, so I was checking what paint would be best over these plastic pots. And this is acrylic, 2 coats, and look at the mess on that. It hasn't covered very well. If you touch it too hard, bits come off, and it's really cracked and horrible. So that didn't work. Because my idea was that you could take something like these, ready to stick on flowers, you pop those around, look how lovely that's going to look. Again, so super quick and easy, but we can't do that. So I've got some Mod Podge and got this paper here. You can see the bits of paint are coming off all the time. I like the little purple flower on this. So I'm going to scrunch it up, because this is slightly thicker than tissue paper. Would have been better if it had been the same thickness as tissue paper, and I'm going to try not to use that bit. I'll tear that off, and then I know I won't. Then I'm going to tear little bits of this off. I'm just going to do a sort of collage on it, because it's no good putting anything too flat because the paint is so awful. But I thought, we'll try this and see what it looks like. I don't really need much Mod Podge. If I show you on this side, I can stick the paper on without it. But just to be extra sure, I shall put some Mod Podge on and be very well behaved as a crafter and not cut corners, which isn't like me at all. I'm always looking for shortcuts, because why not? If you can make something a little faster, then go for it. If you don't want to use Mod Podge because it's quite expensive, then I found that using a watered down PVA glue does a pretty good job too. Oh, I love peeling PVA glue off my fingers. Do you like that? When it all sticks to you and it forms like a skin. And then you spend ages peeling it off. I first learned you could do that when I was in school. And I was like, oh, this is wonderful. One day I'd like to paint my whole hand with PVA glue and then peel it all off. Very silly, very childish, I know, but oh, I would enjoy that. Have you ever done that? Let me know. I like doing this collage because you don't have to be very careful at all. And in this situation, I want all the paper to crumple up. Sometimes you've got to be careful you don't put too much glue on because it ruins the look on the paper. But we haven't got to worry. Now the bottom looks quite good when it's flat. You can't see all the black from underneath. The top does have some issues. Now you could repaint this if you've used the wrong paint and it's flaked off on you. I don't know if you could hide it with ribbon. We will try that. Put a Mod Podge over there just for a few minutes because we're going to cut out something. I thought something like this would be lovely. And these are slightly too long. So I'm going to pick one that I can cut the bottom off. And this one I think will suit perfectly. And then just cut it out. You don't have to do this step, but I've got this corner rounder. Pop it in. Chop every corner. Look at that. It just makes it look like a more finished item. If you're ever wondering what it is, a particular item is that I'm using, then the chances are it's in my Amazon store and the link is down there. It's difficult to point down on this screen. And if you check that out, and it's got the list of lots of things, gluey things, cutty things, whatever you fancy. So I'm going to use that pretty rose there as the back. And I'm going to glue this on the front here. And this is, I didn't really want this rippling up. So it may take a little bit of the shape of the underneath. Hopefully not. Could run a ribbon around there. I want to put a bow on, so we'll try it. So we're going to go to the back. Little bit of glue. We can't do much more damage than's done to it. So let's see what this works out like. Okay, and then a nice tulip bow. And we got that, which isn't the prettiest thing in the world, is it? Call a spade a spade. It's a bit on the ugly side. But it was a recovery job, and I think we've recovered well from a very sticky, very peeling pot. And I should mention as well, you don't need to paint right the way down into the pot because that's the only bit you're ever going to see. So that saves you paint and saves you time. Even my bow is ugly on this. That's got to be one of the worst crafts I've done. I don't know. Never mind. It'll do. let's move on to the next one. I'm using a black pot this time. This one's a little bit bigger. I just went and found ones I have down in my greenhouse. I've got Mod Podge drying on my thumb. Here, you get it everywhere. The first thing I'm going to do is use this lovely black gingham ribbon and go around the top, all the way around like that. The handy thing is when you're doing this, you can line it up with a little ridge in the flower pot, so you know it's going to be straight. Well, straighter than if you didn't have a ridge to line it up with. Like that. I love this black and white buffalo check. I quite like it in other colours too. I like the red, the lilac, but the black and white has got to be my all-time favourite check. Come back round to the front and put a little two-loop bow there. And this is sort of very, very vaguely based on a tuxedo look. So I've got some of these half buffalo check beads, whoops, which are still alive. I'm going to glue some down in a line from the bow to the bottom. Like that. And if you want a pot you can turn around, you can do exactly the same on the other side. Oops, got a bit of glue going there. But again, quick and easy, and I think that's quite funky, quite smart. I like that. And you've got the option to put dots or these little half beads all the way over this pot. You could use different colours, whatever you fancy really. But I like that, and it's got a really simple, clean look to it. So yeah, that's one of my favourites. No time to stop. More pots to cover. So this one, just to show you how the paint works out, I put on a layer of chalk paint, a pink chalk paint, and then pink acrylic on the top, and it's very blotchy, so not the ideal again. It's a matter of working out what works best for you with your painting. And I got these petals. I got these. They're chunks of them like this. And I got them in the charity shop, and they had a bag full for, I think I paid £1 or £2, I can't remember now, thinking they were chunky leaves. But then when you open them up, they're really fine lace or mesh. So I will never in my lifetime run out of these little petals. And I'm also going to try coffee dyeing them as well. I can have different colours of maybe some Kool-Aid on them, see what will happen. Because they're nylon, I don't think they're going to take a dye very well. It's worth a try. So now I'm going to take these little petals and start putting them around the pot, and then work up for a few layers until we've got a frilly pot. Although this isn't as quick as other projects, it is definitely under the easy label, and it's not going to take too long. So now we have a very flowery petaled flower pot. And it did work. I was hoping that the colour of the pot would reflect through and give just a hint of colour to my petals, and it has. But I think we need to do a little bit more along the top now. So I've got this ribbon, and I'm just going to push the petals down and add the ribbon. I think it'll just look more finished. Out with the hot glue and around with the ribbon. If you put hot glue on this and pull it off, you end up leaving a gap, so I'll have to touch that up later. And you can add something else, like an extra flower there. I've got this giant poofy pom-pom, but I think that's definitely over the top. Look at that. I think I'm going to leave that as it is, and I will need to touch up places where I picked the hot glue off and made a terrible mess of it. But that was fun, very pretty. It did take a while. I cannot say to you that this is very quick, but it's very simple and it's quite fun, and you can use any petals of any flowers you have. If you've got anything, well, you couldn't use real flower petals, but you could use any false flowers. Just take the petals off them and use those. Right, let's get on to something a little less time consuming. So this quick and easy project for jazzing up your flower pot is just going to be using some moss. Use a very thin layer of hot glue, squidge it all over and then add some moss, and lots will fall back off. You are going to make a terrible mess. I should warn you. I think you can get moss sheets where the moss is actually glued to a sheet. But I think this is going to look much more rustic and much more fun. You can see just how quickly this is all coming together. I won't show you how long it takes to clean up afterwards though. That might sort of put you off it if you desperately need to make something in 2 minutes before visitors arrive. This is more moss I've got off my poor groaning apple tree. It's got so much moss on it. You can hardly see any bark. And it gets thicker every year, so I just go and help myself to it. Lets my tree breathe and saves me a fortune because moss is not cheap. When you think you've covered it, give it a brush over lightly. Lots of bits will fall back off because they're not properly fixed. And then you can go in and repair those holes. We don't want bits underneath either. There we go. You can see I've got a gaping hole there that I didn't even know was there because it was covered with loose bits. And then you've got the option to leave this as it is, which I think is such fun, just as it is. Or you can add something onto it. Now, lots of ideas. I would only really add something that looked natural, even if it isn't, if you see what I mean. I wouldn't add anything like pretty coloured bows and that sort of thing for my taste. I think I'd rather keep this as very simple and very rustic and very outdoorsy. Give it a bit of a haircut if it needs it. I've got this jar of potpourri, so I thought I'll have a look and see what I've got in here that I could put on. It came in a big box and I used lots of it during Christmas time. Still smells. I think I'll use that. And oh yes, look at that. That really jazzes it up. A little bit of hot glue, or a lot of hot glue. Make sure you put plenty on because it's got to stick to moss and then through to the pot if you can find a little bit of clear pot to give it an extra push, if you see what I mean. That didn't really explain what I meant, but if you can get through and find a little bit of plastic pot, then it'll stick better. I like that. I like the simplicity of it, and I like the ruggedness, and oh, it feels really tactile. Yep, that's fun. So which one was your favourite plant pot? I'm not sure. There are a few. I really like the purple with white spots. I really like this one. And I know I really didn't like the yellow one that we had to repair and it didn't work out very well. But I think all in all, it was a success. If you enjoyed this video, then please give me a thumbs up, and it would be great if you could subscribe because I've got so many projects coming up over the next year. And I'll see you all next time. But until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye.